Jack James Walker, are we going to be in one of your future videos?
I think I can arrange that.
Yes!
Well, hello everyone and welcome to week 41 and 42 of my life as an L3 CTS cadet pilot. That little intro that you just saw there was a little road trip that a few of us did to Marokopa Falls. And if you ever get the opportunity to visit, I can highly recommend it. Not just for the falls, but there's also a cave system you can visit. There's also glowworm caves, natural bridge, but there's also a lot of walks you can go around there, so it's really well worth it. Anyhow, enough of the social side. What have I been doing flying related? Well, 2 weeks roundup again, and it's been pretty busy. 6 flights, 2 with an instructor and 4 without an instructor. The 2 instructor flights were instruments 2 and 3. One of my solos was dedicated entirely to circuits, and the last 3 solos are all general handling with the circuits thrown in at the end. So let's start with the instructor flights. In instruments 2 and 3, so in the last episode I talked about instruments 1, which is where you have the full panel and you basically fly with just what you can see on the instrument panel. Instruments 2 makes that a bit more difficult. Some of your primary instruments will be covered up for this, so you'll start on full panel for the lesson and then suddenly you'll simulate that you've had an artificial horizon failure. So your master instrument changes from the artificial horizon to the turn coordinator. Once your instructor feels that you're adapting to that, it will then cover up your directional indicator, which means to get your heading, you now have to use the compass, which is extremely unreliable if you're not straight and level and in balance, so it makes flying a lot more difficult. Instruments 3 takes the exact same setup as instruments 2, but it integrates what's known as compass turns into it, which is basically where you turn the aircraft onto a heading using the compass, which sounds simple enough, but when that's bouncing around and has turning errors in it as well, it makes it a bit tricky. As a matter of fact, that on compass turns, you have to, if you're turning to a heading on a northerly heading, you have to overshoot your heading by as much as 30 degrees. And if you're turning to a southerly heading, you have to undershoot by as much as 30 degrees. It doesn't sound difficult, but when you're on the instruments, you can't see out the window, limited panel, and you're trying to watch this little compass ball bounce around. It's just very difficult, especially when you're flying on a day where it's moderate, even severe turbulence at times. So that made things very interesting for me. As a matter of fact, we cut the flight a little bit short. We literally went up, did the objectives, and we were just like, yeah, we're turning back. This is actually getting quite rough for light aircraft. So yeah, it was a good experience. I have to admit, I was glad at times that I wasn't looking out the window, because I don't think I would have liked what I was seeing, but there we go. So that's the dual flights all done. Well, for these 2 weeks roundup, there's still loads more duals to go on the course. But we're now going to spend the rest of the episode talking about the 4 solos that I've done. And they've all been great fun. The weather hasn't always played ball. How should we start this? I think I did the first general handling flight and went out towards Raglan for that. Basically on general handling you can do anything from like stalls, steep turns, practice forced landings, slow flight, and then you can throw some circuits in if you want. So it sounds like there's quite a lot to do, but you do get given a 2-hour flight. So I think it was on the second general handling flight I actually ended up doing a bit of sightseeing, because I literally did the objectives and was just like, well, I might as well do a bit of exploring. So I think I spent about half an hour just flying around the Raglan area, and it was quite nice just to sit back, relax, enjoy flying the aircraft and enjoy the view at the same time. So that was quite good. I think I managed to get up to 6,000 feet on that flight, so I was set my personal best for highest altitude I've ever recorded. There's not many areas you can go high at, but the area I was in you can go up to 6,500 feet, so I thought, why not? I've got the time, might as well see how the aircraft performs at high altitude. Well, high altitude for a light aircraft. But when there's only one of you on board, I mean, even at 6,000 feet, I was still had a climb rate of 800-900 feet per minute. Whereas with an instructor, that would probably go down to about 400 or 500 feet per minute. So being only one in the aircraft does make a huge difference. And the last flight I've done in the past couple of weeks was general handling number 3. Now, it's a classic example of planning a flight out and then that plan just went out the window. So basically, weather forecast was for scattered cloud at 4,000, 4,500, depends on which forecast you looked at. So I was like, great, I can do stalls, go up to 3,500, do the stalls, do my steep turns, do my practice forced landings, do some slow flight, do a bit of touring around the area and do like a mini nav and then return back to Hamilton. What could possibly go wrong? Well, I got about 40 minutes into the flight, was doing my stalls, all went well. Kept on forgetting to put rudder on full power, but I now know to do that. So I'll just have to give myself a kick up the backside every time I don't do it. But I was doing my steep turns and I sort of looked below me and I realised there was quite a lot of cloud building up. It was still a scattered layer, but it was not 4,000 feet, it was nearer 2,000 feet. So at that point I was like, okay, let's bring the power back and let's bring ourselves below the cloud before it really thickens up. And yeah, I ended up flying along the Raglan coast at 1,400 feet, and the cloud was literally right above me, like 1,700 feet. And yeah, it was at that moment I was like, oh dear, to get back to Hamilton I've got to go over some hills, which I'm pretty sure are 2,000 feet. So at that point I was thinking, okay, let's stuff the learning objectives, let's start thinking about how am I going to get this aircraft back, and if I can't get it back, what are my alternatives? And essentially, actually I've got the maps over here. So, Raglan's out just off the side of the chart here, I had the one in 500,000, but this one shows it better. And you've got a line of hills here, including Mount Pironia, and a line of hills here. And you need to clear them by a minimum of 500 feet. But it was a little bit turbulent, and I was thinking, I'm going to need a bit more margin than that. So the cloud was still technically above the hills, but yeah, so I basically took the scenic route back, going in between the two ridges, and got about halfway back, and I realised the cloud base had actually risen up quite a bit, to the point where I was actually able to come back over them anyway. But yeah, I think I held outside Temple View for about 30 minutes just killing time, because I was just like, I'm not going back towards Raglan with low cloud around. It's just like, I don't want trouble. But yeah, I remember getting back and thinking, yeah, I was really pleased with how I flew that. Like, I'd taken the learning objectives, I'd completed them, but the plan of how I did them completely changed. So really pleased with that, and yeah, it was a good flight in the end. But yeah, I mean, there's a few of us out there. I think one person actually came back over the cloud and got radar vectored in. So yeah, we all came back in different ways really, so that was good fun. Let's just say I was glad I was in one of the nicer aircraft, had a Garmin 430 in it, so it was GPS, terrain awareness was built in, so that was quite nice. I think if I was in one of the aircraft that didn't have GPS in, I would have probably been thinking, would have been a bit unsettled, but would have handled it, and that's what you've got to do as a pilot. You've got to adapt to changing situations, albeit whether that be weather, something to do with the aircraft, air traffic control, and when you get onto the commercial side of it, whether it could be a passenger problem, you've got to know where to put the aircraft and when to do it, and at the same time try and keep it commercially viable. So that's all my flying done for the last 2 weeks, and that actually marks the start of the next big phase of my flight training. As of today, I'm recording this on the Monday, and I've just been and come back from CTC. I've now completed the mass briefings for navigation flights, and that is what's going to be coming up in the next episode. And on that note, thank you very much for watching. Feel free to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and recommend it to anyone who you feel might be interested. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.